And Liang hung up the phone and immediately pressed Daniel about the attack plan on Southeast Asian markets. Daniel hadn't heard what Zhang Jiwen had said. He assumed that Liang had just taken a routine Feng Shui consultation and replied with smug satisfaction. I knew you'd be interested. This time the target is the Straits Times Index of Singapore. If we can drive it down from 30 points to below 10, we've succeeded. Such a big deal shouldn't be paid by percentage like last time. United Americas is such a generous guy, he proposed, giving me an offshore hedge fund under their umbrella. If the plan succeeds, I'll own 20% of that hedge fund and get direct management rights. Do you even know how much money's in that fund? Its current asset value is already $2 billion. When Tiger Fund was founded over 20 years ago. It started with only 8 million. Wow. Ha ha ha. This time I'll sail home with a ship full of treasure. Daniel muttered quietly to himself, but his laughter shook the entire office. And Liang lightly brushed his square little mustache with the back of his fist, mentally calculating the implications of the figure Daniel had just dropped. With $2 billion, what could possibly be done? Hedge funds could short sell, use financial derivatives, and leverage capital. In 1992, Soros used Quantum Fund, then worth only $700 million, to short the British pound, causing Europe to lose $6 billion and forcing the pound to drop 20% in value. The total capital Soros mobilized never exceeded $2 billion. So while it would be extremely difficult for Daniel to maliciously short the entire Southeast Asian market with $2 billion, it wasn't impossible. Could these two events possibly be connected? What's the connection? Liang murmured to himself. Daniel popped open another bottle of champagne, poured a glass for everyone, and loudly announced he'd treat the whole office to lunch. Clearly, Daniel's newfound generosity benefited everyone. And Liang carefully replayed every detail of his conversation with Zhang Jiwen in his mind, then picked up his phone and silently typed a short message. Last time we met you told me. When the US was attacked on 9/11 in 2001, intelligence indicated someone had contacted Al-Qaeda. Those people used code names. What were their code names? Zhang Jiwen's reply was brief and shocking. On the screen appeared only one word. Cat. Liang grabbed Li Xiaoshen and rushed home. The house was empty, and Jing and Lu Zhongtong had taken Koku to do charity work. Only Yi remained, dressed in a long robe, pacing through the dining room arranging flowers like an ancient scholar maiden. Liang quickly filled Yi and Li Xiaoshen in on what had just happened. Without changing expression, Yi trimmed a small peach blossom branch and gently placed it into a straight blue porcelain vase before slowly saying, When I was kidnapped by Rentaro in the western hills of Beijing, Chinese official He Kun told me right before he died that his real boss was an American financial group with the codename CAT. Before Danny died, he also told you that if he could collapse Genting Casino and strike Genting Group, CAT would gain further control and destroy Malaysia's economy. Look. Beijing, Malaysia, Singapore, New York, all show traces of CAT's activities. We can practically draw a line connecting them all. And Liang suddenly remembered something. He ran to his room and brought out a small box for Yi to see. Inside were 2 platinum cufflinks. When Yi picked them up, she noticed they were engraved with a crouching poised leopard, though now upon closer inspection, it looked more like a wildcat. These were torn off Danny's shirt, and Liang explained. I'd plan to return them to his family someday. But now I recall, when I went to 120 Wall Street to meet Elena, I saw that United America's logo was also a crouching big cat. At the time I thought it was a cougar and didn't connect it to Danny's cufflinks. Now I realize everything fits together. CAT had long-standing business ties with David Group. He supported the development of the particle resonance machine and even wanted to trigger earthquakes to cripple Malaysia's economy, but David refused. David was Jewish and a pacifist, so naturally he became an obstacle to CAT. That's why CAT hired the apostles, the masters of silent assassination, to kill him. The Danny I knew wasn't a warmonger, yet I never understood why he harbored such deep hatred toward Malaysia that he joined CAT's organization as an accomplice, which led to the Kubatown incident. While trimming slender green bamboo stalks, Yi turned to Li Xiaoshen and asked, Xiaoshen, how much do you actually know about CAT? You must have picked up some intel when you joined David Group, right? Li Xiaoshen sat by the dining table in a soft beige turtleneck sweater, bathed in a sunbeam that filtered through her hair, casting a hazy amber glow around her. CAT is one of the apostles' oldest clients, she said. But angels only carry out missions. We're not allowed to ask about anything beyond the task. So none of us really knew much about CAT. My original assignment was simply to infiltrate David Group and steal technical documents. Later, Rentaro gave me supplemental orders to get close to Liang, but he never specified the purpose. Hearing all this now, I think I wasn't actually executing CAT's mission at all. CAT had already completed David's assassination through North American operatives using the lightning strike device. They wouldn't need an East Asian angel to interfere across borders. My mission must have had more complex layers. First, the apostles wanted to spy on what CAT and David Group were doing, so they secretly sent me without CAT's knowledge. Second, when direct intelligence gathering failed, they gradually lured Liang into this maze, since angels just needed to follow him to uncover useful information. Choosing Liang also tied into Rentaro's interest in testing the An family's Feng Shui prowess. Third, Rentaro himself wanted the Dragon Codex, so he used a classic seduction scheme, targeting Liang through me. That's why, when Liang and I returned to 120 Wall Street that night, we accidentally ran into the North American assassin who'd come back to retrieve the lightning strike device. Hearing this, Liang laughed. He reached under the table, took Li Xiaoshen's hand, and warmly clasped it in his own. To him, their shared ordeal was the most romantic love story in the world. And Yi pretended not to notice the young couple's affectionate gestures and smiled as she asked, "May I ask an off-topic question? That day, how exactly did you make the whole family sleepwalk? Were you really sleepwalking, or were you acting?" Li Xiaoxin widened her eyes, glancing around the room. It had all happened right here, and now, this place was her home. She sighed wistfully. It feels so good to sit here and finally tell someone the truth. Keeping it bottled up was unbearable. The organization's plan was to have a sniper shoot me. Since Lang already cared deeply for me, he'd protect me and let me move in. But I never expected Lang to take the bullet for me. She leaned her head against Lang's chest in a coquettish manner and continued, "I was supposed to cut off the home security cameras first, so nothing happening inside would have any external resonance, but I didn't do it." And Lang chuckled, "What a clumsy thief." "Oh, come on. I wanted Sister Jing and Yunji to find out about it." Li Xiaoxin explained loudly with a laugh, then added, "That night Rentaro had already taken control of me through the remote brain chip. My phone could emit hypnotic electromagnetic waves, so it was actually Rentaro using my body to lead En Liang into the study to look for the Dragon Codex." En Liang recalled the surveillance footage from that night. The beautiful woman standing beside him had in fact been Rentaro. A wave of nausea and goosebumps washed over him. He shivered and hugged himself, muttering, "He was utterly despicable. People like him don't deserve pity, even in death." And Yi shot him a warning glance to stop him from saying more. "Ah, don't talk like that. The dead are gone. Let bygones be bygones." Xiaoxian. "But how did you manage to block Jingjing's bullet with your phone?" Li Xiaoxin propped herself up on the arms of her chair, shrugged slightly, and thought for a moment before answering. "I still had some awareness left. I didn't want En Liang to get shot, and I didn't want my phone controlling anyone else in the house anymore, so I forced myself to raise my hand and let the bullet destroy the phone." After hearing this, En Yi reached out and gently hugged Li Xiaoxin's shoulders. Resisting mental control is incredibly difficult. "Good girl, you were very brave. I'm En Liang's mother, so I also want to thank you. If not for you, my son might not have made it past that day. You know how unlucky he was back then, running for his life every single day." Li Xiaoxin smiled happily but quickly interjected, "Yunji, I'd like to remind you about what happened in Beijing. The official Xu tried to assassinate was seen by ordinary people as just another corrupt official taking bribes, but in reality he wasn't acting alone. I know very well how their organization works. They're spies just like Angel, but far more senior. Angel is only a tactical level spy. These people are strategic level operatives. They embed themselves deep within critical government departments and hold equally high-ranking positions in both rival nations. Gathering intelligence is merely basic work for them. Their real mission is to seize opportunities to influence major political decisions, causing irreversible strategic failures for the enemy. If He Kun had the authority to revise laws, he'd draft provisions that facilitate the cheap sale of state assets, all under the guise of attracting foreign investment to develop national enterprises. Even if exposed and executed later, the government, having suffered silently, would still bury him with honors as a national hero. No one would dare admit that one of their top officials was actually a spy. And Yi fell silent for a moment, absorbing the weight of Li Xiaoxin's words. She nodded slowly and said to both of them, "It seems Cat operates with meticulous planning and long-term vision. I really need to go to Beijing myself. Cat must have infiltrated the inner circles there long ago. Thank you, Xiaoxian. We never thought this deeply. We're simply not in that line of work." As she spoke, and Yi trimmed a small lotus leaf and placed it into the blue porcelain vase at the center of the dining table. Didn't Dada discover that Elena used to work for United Americas before joining David Group? At this point, we can only suspect that United Americas is Cat. Cat deliberately planted an engineer skilled in Kabbalah mysticism into David Group. And Elena has always overseen geographic site selection for overseas projects. In ancient China, she'd be equivalent to a yin-yang official in the imperial bureaucracy. I think Danny's death was an accident for Cat, but it was also already accounted for in their contingency plan. Li Xiaoxin added, "Yes, at the Gumu village project site, Angel even shot down Cat's helicopter. All of Cat's representatives who came to observe the experiment died there. Cat never expected the apostles to strike so ruthlessly." And Yi nodded. "That makes perfect sense. The apostles stole something from Cat, which enraged them. So the Tokyo base and WeSbank operations were Cat's retaliation against the apostles. But Cat isn't that simple. I suspect they also took the opportunity to attack the European market. You and Dada were merely the vanguard, tearing open a gap in the tightly guarded Frankfurt market. That's why after WeSbank collapsed, the European market kept falling. It's likely other fund teams are continuing the short-selling campaign." And Liang and Li Xiaoxian nodded repeatedly. And Yi went on. "Once Danny died, Cat smoothly took over the group and naturally put the most qualified person, Elena, in full charge. Now Cat is probably offering Dada a huge deal. While strange things are happening in Singapore. If we assume these two events are connected, then it's likely terrorists will launch an attack, and Dada will simultaneously short-sell the Singapore market based on that panic. Cat would then reap enormous profits. You're absolutely right, WeSbank was probably just a rehearsal. But since you refused Matvey's request a few days ago and declared you'd never participate in their research again, I'm sure they've sensed something and won't invite you to join the Singapore operation." And Liang said, "Then I'll tell Dada not to get involved. I'll go to Singapore myself to check things out, and Zhao Xian can come with me." And Yi finished arranging the flowers on the table and stepped back to admire her work from both sides. This arrangement turned out nicely, quite Eastern in style. Xiaoxian. What school do you think this is? Li Xiaoxian tilted her head and studied it carefully from different angles. This floral piece has 3 viewing angles and the composition follows the principle of 3 talents positioning. It's elegant yet disciplined. I'd say it's Sogetsu style like Bana. Delighted, and Yi reached out and affectionately ruffled Li Xiaoxian's hair. You're bold yet thoughtful, gentle and beautiful. If only you were my daughter. And Liang, you'd better protect her well. She paused, then added. I have an idea, though it might clash a bit with your personality. Still, hear me out. And Liang nodded, and Li Xiaoxian listened intently. And Yi continued. You should first study all the projects Elena has worked on before going to Singapore. And you might as well let Dada handle this matter. Do you understand? Daniel is an excellent financial assassin. During the WeezeBank operation, he coordinated 4 investment firms to strike simultaneously. Entrusting this to him now is completely safe. The speaker's voice came from Elena's computer screen. Only his chin was visible in the frame. Though his face wasn't shown, his pronounced double chin suggested a bloated, fat, swollen visage. A napkin was draped around his neck, and his hands never stopped slicing into a thick, medium-rare steak. As the knife cut through the meat, blood oozed from the center. He slid the tender, bloody slice into his mouth, and the blades scraping against the plate produced a sound like nails on glass. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Elena shifted her finger slightly to lower the volume on her earpiece, enduring the shrill noise as she asked, this time, if we don't bring An Liang in, I'm worried we won't have a sure win. You saw the power of Feng Shui yourself back in Frankfurt, right from the start, and Liang completely dominated the situation. Even at the last moment, he managed to get insider information from Japan's Mishima Bank out of nowhere. We were all set to commit massive capital for a final showdown with Mishima Bank, but that unexpected twist saved us a fortune. The double-chinned Caucasian had a jaw so strong it looked capable of crushing ox bones. He wiped his mouth with a napkin, took a sip of red wine, and said, and Liang refused to give Matevi the Feng Shui incantations for a reason. He's not a meat-eater, he can't grasp our mindset. Even if we invited him this time, he'd turn us down. Actually, what worries me most is if he did accept our offer. Then the whole operation might collapse in his hands. His Feng Shui skills are supernatural. If he's cunning enough, he could easily manipulate us. This was a secret meeting between only 2 people, conducted over a secure, untraceable private line. Elena had closed the door to the CEO's office and now sat upright facing her boss. She could guess what he meant by calling An Liang not a meat-eater. Her boss saw that An Liang lacked the predatory greed essential to their world. In the cat's philosophy, all beings were either meat-eaters or grass-eaters. The former ruled the world, the latter existed only as prey. Yet, against all logic, Elena stubbornly wanted An Liang involved in this attack plan. She couldn't even tell herself whether she truly needed his expertise, or simply craved another chance to work alongside him. Without thinking, she blurted out something foolish. We should just go talk to Daniel directly about the terms. He'll definitely tell An Liang anyway, so why not just invite An Liang ourselves, you fucking idiot. Is that really the best idea your brain can come up with at your level? Fuck. Listen carefully, that fat black bastard will tell An Liang everything. If An Liang helps him, we save a huge amount of money. If he refuses, they'll fall out, and that greedy pig will jump straight onto our ship. Either way, it works out perfectly for us. After this tirade, the boss cut off another bloody chunk of beef and stuffed it into his mouth. Chewing heavily, he pointed his fork at Elena, who sat humbly before him. Are you and Matevi ready on your end? The coordination with headquarters is complete. I'll deliver the documents to you personally this afternoon. The main engineering team and equipment are already set up in Malaysia, and the management staff can depart tomorrow. The fork remained aimed at Elena. This investment is bigger than the Gumu Village Al-Qaeda base. Your side is the main assault force, don't screw up. Coordinate well with that fat black bastard. It's far better when he makes the move instead of us. Unlike you, and Lang doesn't have an engineering company. Without manpower and resources, even his Feng Shui is useless. Keep tabs on his movements. If he goes to Singapore, have someone eliminate him there. As soon as he finished speaking, the boss slammed his fist down beside him, and the call window abruptly shut, cutting off the conversation. Elena swiveled her chair to gaze out the window toward the east bank of the East River. Next door, a square tower with blue glass cladding stood sharply defined, its angular corner slicing toward 120 Wall Street, flashing a blinding white glare in the sunlight. After talking with An Liang, An Yi hurriedly packed her bags and left for Beijing. This time, An Jing insisted on going out to play with her mother, so An Yi took her along. Since Lu Zhongtong was still on parole and couldn't leave U.S. soil, he stayed behind in New York selling ice cream. Daniel told An Liang this was a massive operation. It would take roughly 2 months to mobilize funds and coordinate positions globally, so he asked An Liang to devise a Feng Shui strategy to support it. After hearing Daniel's plan, An Liang realized something critical was missing, a sufficiently explosive trigger. In financial markets, riding the trend was the golden rule. No hedge fund had ever dared to attack a market out of thin air. Back in the day, Soros shorted the British pound only because Britain was already weakened. Their previous strike against Weiss Bank succeeded only because they leveraged bank-run panic and media amplification, and even then, Weiss Bank had already been poisoned with toxic securities. Yet this time, Daniel didn't even know how the operation would begin on launch day. Do you really think a single hedge fund can topple Southeast Asia's largest market? Daniel knew this wasn't mockery, just a rhetorical question between 2 professionals who understood finance, so he didn't get angry. Instead, he chuckled warmly. My brother, don't worry about that. Elena said all kinds of negative news will surface before Black Friday to support the fund. It's strange, why isn't she asking you to help undermine the fundamentals this time? Was she unhappy with how things went last time? Liang replied casually. Maybe she thinks I'm too expensive, or maybe she believes Feng Shui isn't needed this round. Besides, I've withdrawn from their research team. I'm no longer one of them, so of course they wouldn't use me. A heavy hand slapped hard onto Liang's shoulder. No problem, I know your skill. Without Feng Shui support, this can't succeed. Look at me now. Designer clothes dripping in gold, driving a luxury RV, dating a blonde model, all thanks to your miraculous Feng Shui layout. By the way, last month my whole family moved to Long Island. That's where real money lives. While you're still in the US, help me check the Feng Shui this has to work. Daniel tore a blank check from his wallet and quickly signed both the front and back before handing it to Liang. Feel it in yourself, I've already decided after this job I'm buying a Featherlight motor coach. You know that kind? Marble floors, Italian leather sofas, twin electric recliners, twin? Heh. Crystal glass galley, onyx kitchen countertops, brass sculptures lining the hallway, and a king-size bed fit for an emperor. Plasma TV up front, dazzling crystal ceiling overhead, only $2.5 million. I'll even hire a driver. And Liang listened with a smile as Daniel rambled on about his dream, then suddenly said, then I'll fill in $2.5 million. What? Oh no, good God, where in the world is there a consultant fee that expensive? You're robbing me blind. Now it's the subprime crisis. In Philadelphia you can buy a villa with front and back gardens for just $250,000. You're willing to spend $2.5 million on a truckload of furniture. Yet you think a consultant who could make you $200 million isn't worth $2.5 million? Daniel stared wide-eyed at Liang and the blank check in his hand. His dark round face showed only two large white eyeballs, and Lag grinned mischievously as he handed the check back to Daniel. After blinking a few times, Daniel slapped Lag's palm hard and said resentfully, "Deal." And Lang and Li Shaoxian sat on a plane heading to Argentina, both absorbed in their laptops digging through documents. Li Shaoxian asked softly, "In the subprime crisis, the ones hit hardest were those who lent money to the US or greedy companies chasing high returns from subprime bonds. But the crisis has been going on for a year now. Everyone in the world knows those junk bonds are toxic. So what's the point of shorting Southeast Asian markets at this stage? Wouldn't it be better to keep the market stable? Even one more blood-sucking machine would be useful." Liang was scrolling through a list of engineering projects that Daniel had hacked from David Group's database. Half of the projects listed involved Elena, yet Matvey's name never appeared anywhere. Distracted, he murmured, maybe right now no one would find it strange if any market collapsed. The subprime crisis is like a tsunami. If a murder happens during a tsunami, nobody notices. Honestly, nobody even cares. He pointed at the spreadsheet and said, "Shaoxian, look, this is David Group's business list in Europe. Turkey, Ukraine, Hungary, Romania, Estonia, Bulgaria, Latvia. See anything? Let me show you another table." Liang pulled up another chart on his screen and continued. David Group's clients don't include strong economies like the UK, France, Germany, or Italy. Instead, they perfectly match this list of European countries with high financing needs. All these nations share one trait: their current account deficits exceed their GDP. Isn't that like stealing food from a beggar's bowl? Right now, United Americas holds David Group's biggest contract, the Euphrates River water project in Iraq. But Iraq can barely afford food and housing. How could they possibly pay for something like this? Li Shaoxian smiled and leaned her head on Liang's shoulder. "You're so smart, only you could spot this connection. Didn't I tell you? If He Kun is a strategic spy, then the cat isn't simple at all. It probably has much deeper backing." Liang pressed his lips against her hair and took a deep breath before saying, "So far, we've only seen United America's investment company and Dada's hedge fund. Nothing else stands out? Do you think Soros ever planted spies inside the British government back in the day? Anyway, first thing, ask Dada to pull David Group's accounting books. Once we cross-check everything, it'll all become clear." Before he could finish, Li Shaoxian let out a muffled groan and clapped a hand over her mouth. Liang immediately grabbed tissues and a sick bag from the seat pocket in front of him. "You get airsick? You've had superhuman training. You can fly a plane without issue. There's no way you'd get airsick. Could it be you're pregnant?" Li Shaoxian held her mouth for a while, finally catching her breath. She took the lemon water Liang offered and said, "Probably just lack of sleep. I'm fine." Liang whispered into her ear with a mysterious smile, "I think you are. After Argentina, let's go straight back to New York. You should rest at home. I'll handle the rest of the trip alone. I don't want our little baby worn out." "What baby? Don't be silly." Li Shaoxian laughed. "You still have 2 months to investigate all the projects on that list. Delay even one day, and you'll miss Dada's timeline, not to mention Singapore. Besides, even if I'm pregnant, I can travel with you during the first few months. I won't leave you. I want to stay by your side." She wrapped her arms around his and rested her head on his shoulder again. Their itinerary was extremely tight. Projects handled by Elena included airports, seaports, dams, power plants, and countless highways scattered widely across the globe. And Liang had already informed Zhang Jiwen that something more urgent had come up and that he'd delay his trip to Singapore. Then, with Li Shaoxian, he set off on a backpacking journey around the world, with no tourist spots, only infrastructure sites. Liang first marked all project locations on a map, analyzed each site's geographical features and feng shui layout, then traveled there to verify how these constructions influenced local feng shui. It became a full-scale global feng shui investigation. When Li Shaoxian asked if all this legwork was really necessary, Liang told her, the true essence of feng shui lies in verification. Those unwilling to walk the ground can never become real feng shui masters. Besides, he saw this as a perfect opportunity. a solid reason to test whether traditional Chinese Feng Shui truly applied everywhere on Earth. Li Xiaoxian didn't care where they went. As a militarily trained angel, there was no place she couldn't endure as long as Liang was with her. She carried a camera everywhere, snapping photos joyfully like a lark singing in celebration of life's wonders. At every country they visited, she insisted on taking pictures together with Liang, until he'd exhausted every pose and expression he considered handsome. In the end, all their photos showed one lively, radiant girl beside a mailbox like vagabond with zero expression. For over a month, they raced from South American jungles to African savannas, from European snowfields to Middle Eastern deserts. Everywhere they went was poor, underdeveloped, and politically unstable. Locals struggled to survive, and even they, carrying US dollars, sometimes couldn't buy food or find decent lodging. After weeks of roughing it, both grew thin and sunburnt. They slept the moment they boarded planes, but stayed awake for days upon arrival, their circadian rhythms utterly wrecked. Few of David Group's projects were located in cities. On lucky days, they'd reach an airport or harbor on the city outskirts. On bad days, they'd transfer vehicles multiple times just to reach remote mines or dams, hundreds of miles from civilization. Along the way, Liang kept detailed field notes in his laptop. Li Xiaoxian not only took photos but also filled a small notebook with constant writing, never letting Liang see it. The more she wrote, the more often she reread it, as if wrestling with some profound dilemma recorded within. Meanwhile, Liang noticed he was eating more, which made sense, given their constant travel. But Li Xiaoxian ate less and less, and only plain, simple foods. Whether he calculated her Bazi chart, cast Yijing hexagrams, or directly interrogated her, he couldn't confirm pregnancy. Yet her reduced appetite and frequent nausea pointed to only one possibility. Li Xiaoxian's mental state had remained remarkably stable throughout. She had no complaints about Liang's entire itinerary. Only one request: she wanted to visit Java Island in Indonesia, as she remembered growing up there as a child. And Liang wholeheartedly agreed. Most of David Group's early engineering projects were concentrated in Southeast Asia, likely because Danny, being Singaporean, found it easier to secure local contracts during the company's formative years. More importantly, Liang was eager to see where Li Xiaoxian had spent her childhood. Last time, she'd tricked him into believing that Singapore's Chinatown in Creta Ayer was her hometown, leaving him emotionally moved for nothing. Now, he thought, they could finally fulfill that wish properly. His Feng Shui research was nearing completion, and ending with Southeast Asia meant they could conveniently swing through Singapore afterward, an arrangement that made perfect sense both professionally and personally. On the flight from Myanmar to Indonesia, Li Xiaoxian's nausea had become uncontrollable. Each bout of retching sent her rushing into the restroom for long stretches. When she emerged, her face was pale yellow, alarming Liang so much that he pressed the service button to summon a flight attendant. At the attendant's suggestion, they were moved to empty seats in first class. Liang anxiously ran back and forth, fetching water and medicine, but Li Xiaoxian kept pulling him down beside her, apologizing repeatedly, and Liang wanted to take her straight to a hospital upon landing in Jakarta. But she insisted it was just travel fatigue and acclimatization issues, that she'd feel better after resting once off the plane. Liang figured this was their final stop, and they deserved proper rest. They checked into a high-end hotel in central Jakarta. From their room, they could overlook the Jakarta harbor and get a bird's-eye view of Glodok Chinatown below. Most crucially, a major hospital stood directly across the street. Should Li Xiaoxian feel unwell again, medical help would be moments away. Jakarta, Indonesia's capital, sat on the northwest tip of Java Island. Indonesia itself was an archipelago of countless islands, and Java was not only its most developed but also the most populous island on Earth. Straddling the equator, its heat rivaled Africa's sweltering temperatures. The moment Liang stepped off the plane, the oppressive heat left him dizzy. He hurried into the hotel to seek refuge in the air conditioning. After showering and resting, Li Xiaoxian's spirits visibly lifted. As dusk fell and the air cooled slightly, she urged Liang to explore the Chinatown beneath their hotel. It was Liang's first time in Jakarta, and the city struck him as chaotic and sprawling. From their hotel window, gleaming skyscrapers stretched into the distance, and the hotel itself exuded luxury, its staff even more attentive than those in America. Yet at street level, street vendors, impoverished locals, and luxury cars shared brand new modern roads, while narrow side alleys revealed vast stretches of dilapidated shacks and heavily polluted streams. Liang recalled Danny's dying words: overseas Chinese in Southeast Asia would never forget the massacre that occurred here a decade ago. Now that he stood on this very soil, what should he feel? Not far away lay Glodok, the historic heart of Jakarta's Chinatown, and the epicenter of the anti-Chinese violence. Scorch marks from arson still stained many buildings. Chinese vendors calmly laid out their night market stalls with indifferent expressions, while ethnic Indonesians passed by with polite smiles, as if no one could believe these were the same people who had once committed rape, looting, murder, and arson in this very neighborhood. And Liang soon realized Li Xiaoxian wasn't actually familiar with the area. She seemed unsure of their destination, flipping through a small notebook for a long time before telling him she wanted to visit Jinda Temple. With map in hand, Liang asked passersby until they located it. The temple wasn't large, just a few modest rooms, but its courtyard, smaller than a basketball court, held a massive bronze incense burner beneath an octagonal pavilion, thick smoke curling from the forest of joss sticks inside. Li Xiaoxian stood before the temple, studying it intently, and Liang bought a bundle of incense nearby, lit it, and offered half to her, but she remained frozen in place, her brow furrowed in confusion. Xiaoxian? Xiaoxin? At his gentle prompting, she snapped out of her daze, inserted her incense into the burner, and knelt to bow. And Liang followed suit, closing his eyes in prayer. When he opened them, Li Xiaoxin was still kneeling motionless on the cushion. He crouched beside her, checking her face, no strange expression, nothing alarming. After waiting a respectful moment, he whispered, "Let's go grab something to eat." Li Xiaoxin lifted her head, paused, then suddenly brightened. "Great. I'll take you to try my favorite childhood snack." That was more like it. This was exactly what Liang had been waiting to hear. He'd sampled delicacies from every corner of the world, but only everyday local fare truly reflected a region's soul, and this was Li Xiaoxin's cherished memory. She dragged him through the old quarter until they found a bustling alley lined with food carts. They settled beside a martabak vendor, and Li Xiaoxin dashed ahead to order 2 fresh pancakes, one sweet, one savory, which she proudly carried back. "Isn't this Indian flatbread?" And Liang asked curiously. "What's special about it?" "It came from India originally, so it looks similar," she explained. "But the taste is totally different. This one's savory, this one's sweet. I love the sweet kind. Try this first." Her face lit up like a child's as she popped a bite into her mouth. "So good, hurry, eat yours." Before he could react, she forked a piece of sweet pancake and shoved it into his mouth. The crispy, chewy pastry was generously topped with chocolate and crushed peanuts, rich, fragrant, and surprisingly satisfying. Though Liang rarely enjoyed sweets, he savored it slowly, absorbing her joy. He realized that even foods he normally disliked could taste wonderful when shared with someone he loved. After swallowing contentedly, he tried the savory version, and immediately knew it was his favorite. The crust crackled, the inside stayed soft, and the warm filling burst with scallion and egg aroma. Li Xiaoxin then grabbed some complimentary pickled cucumber slices and tucked them into his pancake. "Try it this way, it's a whole new flavor. If you're worried the fried pancake's too greasy, this cuts right through it." "Oh haha, so sour, so sharp," and Liang laughed after a bite. "And this one has curry flavor, you've got to try it too." Wait, we've got more snacks coming, can't fill up here." After sampling numerous local street foods, Liang waddled, bellyful, into an open-air beer garden. They ordered a pitcher of draft beer and nibbled on Emping, Indonesia's uniquely bitter bar snack, under twinkling colored lights. Sweating profusely yet utterly content, Liang let out a satisfied burp and turned to Li Xiaoxin with a grin. "This is what life should be like, food to eat and a place to sleep. Why go around causing so much trouble? Then let's go back to New York. I wasn't talking about us. I meant those bastards who keep stirring up chaos." Ugh. Li Xiaoxian sipped her beer slowly, flipped through her notebook for a while, and said, "Looks about ready. Tomorrow I can take you to check out the Feng Shui. This is where you grew up. Why do you need a notebook to show me where to find good food?" Li Xiaoxian smiled gently. "During my training in Tokyo, everyone had to undergo brainwashing. After that, my childhood memories became really fuzzy." "I see, so when you went straight to Kim Tech Temple as soon as you entered Chinatown, was that also from a hazy memory? Do you remember your parents at all?" Li Xiaoxian closed her eyes and thought for a moment before saying, "I don't remember anything. I went to Tokyo when I was 15, and everything before that is gone. I found Kim Tech Temple online. It said it's the religious center of Chinatown. I figured I must have visited it as a kid. I heard Chinese people always come here to honor their ancestors." And Liang did a quick mental calculation. Li Xiaoxian turned 15 in 1998. The year of the May 13 tragedy. It was very likely her parents had perished in that disaster, leaving her an orphan sent to Japan. Her first stop at Kim Tech Temple probably meant she'd long suspected this truth, which was why she went there immediately upon arrival. Knowing he shouldn't bring up such painful memories, he quickly changed the subject. "When I first met you, Sister Jing kept telling me your face must have been surgically altered to look so beautiful, now she can die of jealousy." "Xiaoxian, you're a genuine beauty." "What are you talking about? Only you think I'm pretty. Why would she think I'd had plastic surgery?" "Is something wrong with how I look?" And Liang burst out laughing as he watched Li Xiaoxian fiddling with her own face. He reached out and gently touched just below her left cheekbone. "You've got a faint scar here, she's short, so she spotted it right away and assumed it was from jawbone reduction surgery." Li Xiaoxian's hand moved to the scar. Suddenly, her vision blurred, flashes of blood and fire filled her mind. Screams echoed in her head. A bald-headed Indonesian man pinned her neck down on a table with a knife, tearing apart her thin clothes with one hand. Her face twisted in pain. She squeezed her eyes shut and murmured to herself, "The things I shouldn't forget keep slipping away, and the things I shouldn't remember keep coming back." Then she bit her lip, took a deep breath and lifted her head. Seeing her reaction, Liang panicked. "What did you say?" "Did I say something wrong?" After a pause, Li Xiaoxian relaxed again and shook her head with a smile. "It's nothing, just a headache. By the way, is the Feng Shui at Kim Tech Temple any good?" She knew that once Liang started talking about Feng Shui, he'd go on endlessly. It was the perfect way to shift the topic. Haha, this could take a while. Most Feng Shui masters wouldn't even know how to answer that. First, we have to talk about Java Island itself. There are so many volcanoes here, and it's right on the equator, so without question Java is a fireland. Right in the center of Jakarta stands the national monument. You've looked that up, right? Li Xiaoxian loved watching Liang analyze Feng Shui. At moments like this, he radiated passionate intellect, charming and sexy. Resting her chin in her hands, she nodded. "Yeah, I just checked on the plane. It's the tallest building in the city, and the torch at the top is made of 35 kilograms of solid gold. And that's exactly the problem. Java is fireland, yet right in the heart of Indonesia's capital, they placed a golden symbol and shaped it like a torch. From form to meaning, it's a classic fire-melting metal configuration, an extremely inauspicious layout. So even if Jakarta gets favorable timing from heaven, it still can't develop rapidly. Having listened to Liang's Feng Shui lectures daily, Li Xiaoxian had picked up some understanding. Thoughtfully, she asked, could that be why Kim Tech Temple's Feng Shui got ruined by fire? But you always say water can balance fire. Jakarta is a port city with plenty of water chi, and Kim Tech Temple is in the northern part of the city, in the 5 elements. North belongs to water, so wouldn't that neutralize the fire and prevent a disastrous formation? That was precisely the original intent of the temple's Feng Shui master. He wanted to use the fire dragon to overcome metal, melt the metal into water, and then combine it with a natural water energy to resolve the imbalance. But ancient Feng Shui masters didn't understand the Earth's hemispheres or the equator. Traditional Chinese Feng Shui assigns water to the north and fire to the south based on China's climate. Warmer in the south, colder in the north. But south of the equator, it's the opposite. Colder in the south, hotter in the north. Java lies just south of the equator, in the southern hemisphere, so the hottest fire line actually runs through Jakarta's northern sector. Believing they were placing metal in water to generate balance, they unknowingly built Kim Tech Temple in the fire-aligned north. As a result, the Chinese community, taking this temple as their spiritual center, has been praying there day after day, only to see their fortune decline steadily. Li Xiaoxian grabbed Liang's face and kissed him hard on the lips, gazing at him adoringly. You're amazing. You just solved a centuries-old Feng Shui mystery in minutes. But if what you say is true, doesn't that mean traditional Chinese Feng Shui compasses become useless in the southern hemisphere? And Liang grinned proudly. That's simple. Just reverse the north-south meridian on the compass when you're in the southern hemisphere. East and west stay the same. We already paid our respects at Kim Tech Temple. Are we going to have bad luck now? Our incense offering was out of respect and remembrance for our ancestors. Even if the temple's Feng Shui is flawed, one visit won't bring misfortune. Our birth charts are strong and our luck holds. But if I lived here, I'd rename it to the temple. Or at least use less red and make the incense burner smaller to reduce the fire overcoming metal inauspiciousness. They chatted away in the bar until deep into the night before stumbling back to their hotel. Early the next morning, Liang contacted Yi, and the 4 of them held an online meeting. Yi had many friends in China and maintained excellent connections across various sectors. Although her whole family had settled in the United States, whenever China faced a crisis she could help with, she'd rush back immediately. This time, upon arriving in Beijing, she promptly reached out to officials at the 9th Bureau of China's Ministry of State Security, reporting the intelligence he Kun left before his death and the subsequent events. The 9th Bureau, responsible for overseeing domestic entities with foreign ties and foreign institutions operating in China, took Yi's report very seriously. Together with her, they began reviewing which foreign banks had managed to expand their financial operations in China despite the subprime mortgage crisis. During the subprime crisis, nations worldwide were gripped by fear and Wall Street ran red with losses, yet in business for every loser there's a winner. This time those who lost were the companies and citizens who had invested in subprime mortgage-backed securities or were caught in the fallout, but the winners remained hidden. If this were merely American banks competing ruthlessly within their own free market arena, it might be defensible. After all, America functions like a gladiatorial arena where participants must expect to be crushed by any means necessary and are equally free to crush others. But for China's conservative and stable financial system, such tactics amounted to nothing less than vile aggression. At a time like this, when American banks are cutting back and laying off staff, and China is steadily tightening its financial policies to protect the domestic economy, any foreign institution still expanding its business against the tide appears especially suspicious. Yi said to Liang, after our investigation, we've narrowed it down to 2 institutions, Metropolitan Bank Group and United Americas Investment Company. The latter just has a nice-sounding name. In reality, they've been secretly and illegally selling various subprime securities to major domestic corporations and even state funds. We've also found financial ties between them and Metropolitan Bank Group. And Liang had thought his own travels over the past 2 months were dramatic enough to talk about for 3 days and nights, but he hadn't expected Yi to have experienced something equally turbulent right here in Beijing. He glanced at Jing behind her, dressed in a sleek black business suit, leaning sideways against the sofa, long hair cascading over her shoulders, with an expression so calculating it clashed oddly with her youthful, delicate features. She looked as if she were performing in a stage play just to match the mood, unable to resist, and Liang chuckled, Sis Yun, look at her, she seems even smarter than you. And Jing shot him a dark, ominous glare and said, what do you know? We've uncovered a massive Feng Shui conspiracy here. He. Both Liang and Li Xiaoxian were instantly intrigued. Leaning forward toward the screen with exaggerated mystery, they asked in unison, what kind of conspiracy? Holding her teacup, Yi explained to Liang, Metropolitan Bank Group has always wanted to enter the Chinese market. Because of all the protective domestic policies restricting their growth, they've been conducting internal transactions to illegally expand operations. They've already been penalized and warned multiple times before. United Americas, on the other hand, has always kept a low profile. Their toxic bond underwriting business operates exclusively through high-level connections, making it extremely covert. We're still gathering concrete evidence of their exact operations. On the surface, these two companies' headquarters are completely unrelated, scattered across entirely different regions. But take a look at this map I'm about to show you, Jing. And Jing opened another computer and pulled up a satellite image, a detailed overhead view of central Beijing, with a diagonal line slicing from west to east right across the Forbidden City and Tiananmen Square. See that red dot on the western end of this diagonal line? That's the northern section of Financial Street, Metropolitan Bank Group's headquarters, and Yi said. As she spoke, and Jing behind her picked up a pen and pointed precisely at the red dot, mimicking a teacher during a lecture. And Yi shifted slightly to give En Liang a clearer view of both and Jing and the map, then continued, they received their official business license in China in the second half of 1997, meaning they were legally allowed to compete directly with Chinese banks. Now pay attention, right at the southern end of Financial Street sits the headquarters of Bank of China, and Metropolitan Bank's headquarters is positioned directly atop Bank of China's Dragon Vein. After En Yi finished speaking, and Jing completed her demonstration, and Liang asked her to zoom in on the map. Amid the dense forest of skyscrapers along Financial Street, many housing foreign institutions, he turned to En Yi and said, "This whole street is packed with buildings and banks, including plenty of domestic Chinese commercial banks. If you claim these companies are suppressing the Dragon Vein, that doesn't quite hold up. Isn't it more accurate to say they collectively form a powerful Dragon Vein supporting Bank of China itself?" And Yi replied, "Of course that alone wouldn't be enough to raise suspicion. But the situation changes completely when United Americas, which holds equity stakes tied to Metropolitan Bank Group, appears in the east, near the Forbidden City. It's extremely difficult for a company like United Americas to obtain a business license in China, so why do they insist on maintaining a China regional headquarters here? Look at the red dot on the eastern end of this diagonal line. That's their office." And Jing, expressionless as ever, used her pen to point at the second red dot. 3 kilometers diagonally west from Tiananmen lies Metropolitan Group's headquarters. 3 kilometers diagonally east at Jiangguomen sits United America's headquarters. Let me tell you, Jiangguomen is guarded by a stern, imposing Saturn-shaped customs building. No ordinary Feng Shui formation could possibly challenge it. Given the sophisticated Feng Shui layouts you saw at the Liwen Valley R&D Center, Elena's skill level surely isn't so crude as to pit a tiny headquarters against that customs building. That means United Americas isn't trying to fight the customs building at all, it's working in tandem with Metropolitan Bank Group, 6 kilometers away, to create a locked dragon shot formation. As En Yi spoke, and Jing acted out every word like a puppeteer's assistant. At the climax, she dramatically dropped her pen, grabbed her own neck with both hands, shook violently, widened her eyes in theatrical despair, and mimed choking to death, her performance growing increasingly over the top. And Liang and Li Xiuxian couldn't stop laughing at En Jing's antics. Sensing the shift in mood, En Yi turned around, caught En Jing mid-performance and shot her a stern glare. En Jing immediately straightened up, sitting rigidly upright. Li Xiuxian, noticing how the line connecting the two companies sliced diagonally across Tiananmen like a giant staple pinning down Beijing's central axis, turned to En Liang and asked, "So they really are locking down Tiananmen?" En Liang was busy adjusting the image on screen as he replied, "Not Tiananmen, they're locking down Zhongnanhai. Zhongnanhai sits right next to the Forbidden City, and this diagonal line cuts straight through it. That's where China's true lifeline lies. Sister Jing, please just send me a copy of this map. You're blocking the view with all your pointing." Hearing this, En Yi smiled proudly. "Ah, Liang, you learn quickly. This is precisely the kind of layout only someone trained in the Dragon Codex can decipher. The fact that you've already grasped their real target shows you're applying what you've learned. Take a closer look at the map later. The angle of this diagonal line falls exactly on the Kongwang line. Along this hexagram line, they can drain Zhongnanhai's prosperous qi while simultaneously avoiding the wrath of Tai Sui." Li Xiuxian didn't understand most of the technical terms, but she cared deeply about what came next. She quickly asked En Yi, "So what's your next move?" En Yi answered, "The motive behind locking down Zhongnanhai speaks volumes. He Kun was on the verge of entering Zhongnanhai. If he hadn't gotten into trouble, he'd be a top official there soon. That's why Bureau 9 has intensified surveillance on both parties and deepened its investigation into strategic espionage and financial crimes. China also has many skilled Feng Shui masters. Once they understand the root of the problem, they'll adjust urban planning accordingly. By the way, remember Zhang Zishan, He Kun's mistress I mentioned before? She's fled to Hong Kong and to save herself handed over He Kun's list of espionage contacts. A wave of high-ranking officials will soon be brought down." Behind En Yi, and Jing had resumed her role as impromptu news anchor. This time, she held up a photo of Chen Zishan posing cheerfully beside it like a game show host presenting a prize. And Liang glanced at the photo. To keep En Jing from getting scolded again, he bit back a laugh and flipped open his notebook saying, "Miss En Yi, the case in Beijing matches what I've been investigating around the world. Every project Elena handled specifically targeted local dragon veins, using the same principle as the Yulongju section of the Dragon Codex, first seizing the flag and drum positions, then adjusting to create null lines. Their goal is likely turning those regions into blood-sucking machines for the United Americas. Take the Brantas River in eastern central Java, Indonesia, for example. Along its middle stretch, a dam was built every 30 kilometers. On the surface it seems aimed at balancing agricultural water resources, but by the time the river reaches 50 kilometers from the sea, it's completely dry, no water flows into the ocean at all. Meanwhile, the local economy remains on the brink of collapse, with extreme wealth disparity. Clearly, this isn't a balanced water system supporting agricultural development. Before the 1997 Asian financial crisis, Indonesia already carried massive foreign debt. Afterward, they pushed infrastructure projects to rebuild national strength, but ended up borrowing even more from international banks, funneling funds directly to the United Americas for construction. In effect, the country became enslaved to them. I've detailed all this in my notes. I'll send them to you shortly. As for Singapore, I'll handle it with Zhang Jiwen. Red dust note. In regions where true dragon veins advance forward, protective mountain ranges flank both sides. The peaks along these guardian ranges are called flag and drum peaks. Continuous presence of such peaks alongside the dragon vein is one key indicator distinguishing genuine dragon veins. Li Xiaoshen listened with rapt attention. She never expected An Liang to suddenly wrap up his analysis and prepare to end the call. She quickly interrupted. Don't hang up yet. What exactly is this null line you mentioned earlier? And Yi saw Li Xiaoshen looking like an awestruck student before her professor and knew this was An Liang's moment to shine. Smiling, she said, Jingjing and I need to run some errands. You two go ahead and chat. We'll be back in New York in a few days. Be careful in Singapore, and if you run into trouble, call me anytime. After everyone said their goodbyes, An Liang grinned and asked Li Xiaoshen, Want to learn Feng Shui? Southeast Asia's crawling with Feng Shui masters. I don't need to learn, just curious, that's all. Fine then, let's go check out the power plant's Feng Shui. Li Xiaoshen pulled An Liang back down onto the seat. Hold on, first tell me what a null line is. Tuition fee payable in flesh. You pervert. I'm not listening anymore. Li Xiaoshen made a show of standing up, startling An Liang into grabbing her wrist. Wait, I'll explain. You listen and afterward I'll pay your tuition in full. Li Xiaoshen gave him a coy smile. Oh, that sounds perfect. Go ahead. Traditional Chinese Feng Shui divides direction into 24 equal segments, each with a name and elemental attribute, collectively known as the 24 mountains of yin and yang. Imagine these 24 segments as identical puzzle pieces forming a circle around us. Aligning with any of these directions means receiving true qi or proper orientation. But look at this line. And Liang picked up his Lopan compass and pointed. Li Xiaoshen saw hundreds of radial lines dividing the dial into fine increments, with 24 major lines marking the 24 mountains. He was pointing precisely at those divisions. Xiaoshen. When an angle falls exactly on these dividing lines, it's called falling into null. Generally, this is unfavorable in Feng Shui. A null line sits midway between two directions, receiving no elemental energy from either side. Worse, it rapidly weakens the inherent nature of anything placed upon it. This is known as qi leakage in Feng Shui. Li Xiaoshen nodded in understanding. So harmful elements near dragon site can also be neutralized through this leakage. If so, couldn't we just place all bad Feng Shui features on null lines? And Lang dramatically gasped. No way. You just figured out advanced Feng Shui technique on your own? That's exactly the deep-level method called Xiao Xia Bo Shui. Only master practitioners use it. By making subtle adjustments to orientation, they shift unfavorable landscape features onto null lines, effectively nullifying their negative influence. This is known as the Xiao Zijue, the dissolution technique. You've amazed me. I must reward you properly. With that, An Lang lunged toward Li Xiaoshen with mischievous hands. She shrieked and dodged, sending them tumbling around the room in playful chaos. Passers-by outside their door, guests and staff alike, shook their heads, sighing at the decline of modern morals. A few days later, after thoroughly inspecting all projects in Indonesia, An Lang flew confidently to Singapore and contacted Zhang Jiwen. Zhang immediately invited him to a Ministry of Defense meeting, where An Lang would be formally appointed as a consultant. At the meeting, they learned that Mas Selamat, who had escaped prison, hadn't left Southeast Asia. Indirect intelligence from Al-Qaeda spies suggested he remained in Malaysia, but despite joint efforts by both nations' police forces and Interpol, his exact location remained unknown, let alone his intentions hiding so close by. When it came to finding people, An Liang immediately thought of An Jing. Born with a shaman-like sixth sense, she could cast an exquisitely precise Yi Jing hexagram that would greatly aid the search. But An Liang couldn't reach her by phone, likely already aboard the flight back to New York, so he'd have to wait until she returned home. The meeting yielded no concrete results, so An Liang borrowed a jeep from the ministry and drove around Singapore Island, hoping to spot Feng Shui issues invisible on maps. Reviewing Elena's engineering projects, he noted their layouts subtly followed the 5-element cycle of control and transformation. They excelled at severing dragon chi mid-vein, but clearly lacked effective techniques for controlling dragon sites themselves. An Liang suspected Kabbalah wasn't a complete environmental modification system, but rather a specific layout rooted in Jewish mysticism designed to support royal authority. Though similar to the Dragon Codex's Yulong Jue in manipulating dragon veins, it hadn't yet evolved into the Dragon Codex's fully systematic framework. Normally, to economically weaken a region via Feng Shui, one would target the Bright Hall, the open space ahead of the site, yet David Group's projects were all concentrated on dragon veins or flag and drum left tiger right dragon positions far from urban centers, curiously mirroring Jerusalem's mountaintop sacred city placement. Before leaving, An Liang had reviewed Singapore's infrastructure. As Southeast Asia's strongest economy, Singapore designs and builds all its own projects mostly focused on the maritime Bright Hall ahead of the island, ideal for economic growth and sovereignty retention. Thus, he wasn't concerned about that area's Feng Shui. After driving briefly along Singapore's seaward coastline, he turned inland toward the island's rear dragon vein. If Elena was behind this move, the key to locking and breaking the dragon formation would definitely lie along the vein itself. Singapore stretches over 20 kilometers north-south and 40 kilometers east-west. a tiny speck where the dragon vein doesn't reside domestically but extends into the geographically intertwined Malay Peninsula. Separated only by the Johor Strait, never wider than 1.5 kilometers, the strait winds past the peninsula's southern tip, gently pushing jewel-like Singapore outward to form an offshore island. In Feng Shui terms, this geographical formation is called Beng Hong Guoxia, a critical prerequisite for dragon veins to transform qi and crystallize into true dragon sites. Arriving here, An Liang focused his attention squarely on the dragon vein itself, the very feature Elena specialized in targeting. Surrounded by steaming banana groves and flat highlands, An Liang and Li Xiaoshen parked their car and bought 2 cups of ginger milk tea from a lonely roadside drink stall before walking toward the shore. An Liang was parched. He took a hard sip of his iced milk tea and pointed at the Causeway Bridge. This bridge connects Singapore and Malaysia, but more importantly, it links directly to Singapore's Dragon Qi. Normally, in a terrain like this, where floodwaters surge through narrow straits, the presence or absence of a bridge wouldn't matter much. But with a bridge, it's like adding wings to a tiger. However, it also intensifies the absorption of Malaysia's Dragon Qi, weakening their luck. Look, across the Johor Strait, there's no major city. Li Xiaoshen shielded her eyes from the sun, scanning the horizon. All she saw was flat plain, nothing remarkable. The Causeway Bridge served as the customs checkpoint between the two countries. Because of their close ties, residents could cross freely with minimal paperwork, making traffic on the bridge heavy. Ironically, that very congestion discouraged vehicles from stopping near either end, leaving the bridgeheads devoid of commercial activity and eerily sparse. She turned to An Liang. Singapore's supporting mountain dragon vein lacks major infrastructure. But through this bridge, it siphons off Malaysia's Dragon Qi. If Elena builds her project in Malaysia and locks down the dragon vein right across from here, wouldn't Singapore lose its original source of prosperous Qi? An Liang's eyes lit up instantly. Exactly. Why have I been fixated on Singapore all this time? If there's no issue here, we should trace the dragon vein upstream into Malaysia. Come on, let's get back in the car and cross the bridge. He turned to return his empty cup to the stall, but just then a sharp crack echoed from afar. The glass cup in his hand suddenly exploded. His palm went empty. Bewildered, he instinctively clutched at thin air. Li Xiaoshen, however, immediately hurled her own cup aside and yanked An Liang toward the drink stall, shouting as they ran. A sniper just fired, run. The moment they moved, bullets whistled through the air in rapid succession. Li Xiaoshen dragged An Liang into the stall and rolled behind the counter. The owner and server screamed at them to leave. Ignoring the scolding, the two shamelessly peeked over the counter. Everything seemed quiet. Li Xiaoshen whispered, "They're highly professional. Continuous pursuit would draw attention. Ceasing fire is their way of forcing us out." An Liang pulled out his phone, dialing Zhang Jiwen while muttering to Li Xiaoshen, "It's definitely the cat. These bastards are even more treacherous than the apostles." Hearing An Liang was in mortal danger, Zhang Jiwen ordered them to stay put. He immediately alerted police and SWAT for extraction. Meanwhile, the stall owner, unable to chase them out, called the authorities himself. Just then, 2 short Malay men in floral shirts walked in. The owner was still yelling into his phone. The server assumed they wanted drinks until both men strode straight to the counter, drew pistols and unleashed a hail of gunfire at the people hiding behind it. Shattering glass and ceramic flew everywhere. Customers and staff dropped to the floor, hands over their heads. An Liang and Li Xiaoshen split apart to dodge the bullets, then rolled out of the stall together over the countertop. Li Xiaoshen flipped midair and kicked one assassin square in the head, knocking him unconscious. An Liang didn't have time to pull his stun baton. He lunged from the counter, seized the second killer's head with both hands, used his landing momentum to hoist him into the air, and slammed him hard onto the ground. Knowing staying meant certain death, they bolted for their jeep. After a quick glance left and right, no one in sight, they sprinted. An Liang fumbled for his keys and yanked open the driver's door, fingers already reaching for the ignition. But Li Xiaoshen slid under the vehicle like a soccer player executing a tackle and froze. Taped to the chassis was a car ignition-triggered bomb. She shouted at the top of her lungs, "Don't start it!" And Liang's finger hovered a hair's breadth from turning the key. Her scream jolted him so violently he broke into a cold sweat. In the same motion, Li Xiaoshen rolled out from under the car, grabbed An Liang's arm, and dragged him into the banana grove. Behind them, a metallic clink sounded. A smoking grenade landed beside the jeep. The blast wave hit just as they dove into the thick foliage. As they ran, An Liang gasped, "My God, even good people get assassinated now. What kind of world is this?" Li Xiaoshen remained calm. "It proves you're valuable. The cat must be planning to strike Singapore, and they fear you. Otherwise, why go to such lengths? Hiring hitmen isn't cheap, and calling an angel, that costs a fortune." Well, and Liang actually grinned at her words, nearly bursting into laughter. "Though if I had to die by Angel's hand, I'd feel a bit better about it. These goons are just too ugly. Even as male assassins, they should consider customer experience. Look cooler, maybe get more business." Li Xiaoshen yanked him so hard he stumbled. Still cracking jokes, "Run." Bullets zipped past them intermittently until they reached the deep interior of the banana grove and finally lost their pursuers. After a tense wait, police arrived, cordoned off the area, and escorted them to the Ministry of Defense for tight protection. That evening, they contacted An Yi. To their surprise, she proposed a plan. An Liang should return to New York, while she took his place in Singapore to assist Zhang Jiwen. An Yi reasoned that An Liang's presence in New York would allow him to closely monitor Daniel's hedge fund operations, and visibly removing himself from Singapore would throw off the assassins, lifting the immediate threat. Since the cat hadn't targeted her yet, Her movements between Singapore and Malaysia would remain unimpeded. An Liang hesitated, worried for his mother's safety, but Zhang Jiwen endorsed the idea, vowing to assign heavy security to protect An Yi. The next day, An Liang and Li Shouxun flew back to New York, completing a full role swap with An Yi. Inside a conference room at Singapore's Ministry of Defense, silence hung thick in the air. Several staff officers and Zhang Jiwen sat on one side of a long table. Alone on the opposite side sat An Yi. They were all waiting for An Jing to emerge from the adjacent office.